Starliner is becoming a reality, our impressions of the 2024 solar eclipse, and we discuss the unfortunate news about the Delta IV Heavy launch. All coming up on the next Orbital Edge. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Orbital Edge News, a brand new space show for passionate spaceflight fans. And before we get into the launches, we need to introduce the rocket of the week, which is the Saturn V rocket. And now for the only launch on the queue here, it's the Long March 2D rocket. Let's roll the footage here. This launch occurred Thursday, April 15th at 4:12 UTC at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in China. This mission's payload is the SuperView Neo 3-01. This is China's first commercial optical remote sensing satellite with an ultra-large width of more than 130 kilometers. The satellite is designed to provide a half-meter resolution and 9-band combined image data product. That will do it for launches this week. Let's move on to some space news. Well, the Starliner is on the pad. Well, almost. So this launch has been plagued by an unacceptable amount of delays and quality control issues. Now this launch is slated to go up on May 6th starting at 10:34 p.m. And this is not set in stone, of course. And it's going to use the Atlas V rocket in an N22 configuration. This is a very rare configuration considering that they are launching a human-rated spacecraft. Despite the past history and development of this spacecraft, I'd like to weigh in on my personal opinions and what I actually feel about the program. So it starts like this. This spacecraft has to go up at all costs. We do need a second ride to space. And the reason why is because if anything happens, with the Dragon, we need another way of getting up to the International Space Station without relying on the Soyuz rocket. Say what you will about the Starliner and its past history with all the issues that it have had, especially the airline portion of it. Constant issues with their 737 and now their Dreamliner. As a company, you have to understand that they are two separate divisions with the aerospace division and the airline side of it. So I could probably understand your confidence in Boeing and sending 3 astronauts to the International Space Station. However, I kind of feel a little bit differently. This thing still has to go up because our space program does depend on it. And it's not only the space program, it is the actual area for which we operate, and that is Brevard County and all of the tax revenue that we do bring in from the tourism. When we have more rockets go up, we get more tourism from it, and that helps the community and also helps foster more interest in space. So to make a short story short on that, having the Starliner will probably increase our revenues around 7 to 10%. And anything more than a kind of a zero-sum game is good. And next on the hit list, we need to bring in more spaceflight fans. So just launching one spacecraft to the International Space Station, it's kind of an issue now because we can only send 3 astronauts at a time, where the space shuttle actually was sending 6 to 7 astronauts on average to the International Space Station. That kind of made every flight a little bit more exciting because they had more astronauts to send up. Not only that, they could carry a lot more science with them. With that said, more spaceflight fans is kind of, the goal here, because at this show we want to get people more interested in space. We also want to get new people that are just, they're not really super interested in space, or they're just, you know, they have a mild interest in it, like they've watched Star Trek, and we would just want to bring these people in to say, hey, but you know, this is what we're really doing. And if it takes a game like Kerbal Space Program to do that, you know, that's great. We definitely love to get people excited for space, and the Boeing Starliner is just one of those things. So the last item is the job aspect of all of this. With the Boeing Starliner, it's just simply objectively more jobs, which again turns into more revenue for the area. I know that a lot of people, again, they're mad at Boeing and they're complaining, you know, it's a jobs program, blah, 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 blah. But the point of this show is to get people excited and interested in space so that you can have a job in space. And if SpaceX, for example, is the only job in town, that's not going to afford you a lot of opportunities. And the same can actually be said for Blue Origin. The thing I have with Blue Origin is they're very specialized. They don't seem to have any plans to actually be a workforce in the space program. At least, you know, as far as I know, they have the New Glenn rocket, but that's really just set to immediately do Mars-type things. We don't have a whole lot of information from Blue Origin to begin with because that's how they operate. So just take what I'm saying with a little bit of salt, and you know, hopefully things turn out a little bit better, and Blue Origin can bring us some really cool news that they actually do want to add value to the space program here, other than, you know, to just secretly do their own thing, or to do these vanity projects like their lander to, I think they're doing a moon mission first. Somebody in the comments correct me if the New Glenn is actually doing a moon mission first, but then other people have been saying Mars, so I do need that little clarification there. So moving on here, well, actually, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the 2024 solar eclipse, for which I attended, and I would definitely love to give you my perspective on that. So don't go away. And welcome back. We are in Max Q, the program, which means that's time for the main topic of the show, the 2024 solar eclipse. So this solar eclipse came right up through Texas, the central Texas area, through Austin and Dallas, and it kind of arced over all the way to the northern tip of Maine, and then even parts of Canada, such as Montreal. And Montreal is where Scott Manley actually ended up. He was supposed to be in Fredericksburg, Texas, and he knew cloud cover was going to be crap. And since he's a pilot now, he just took a plane and just casually flew to Montreal, Canada, where he got to actually see the solar eclipse barely, and a lot better than I did. So with this solar eclipse, of course, the whole big issue was that cloud cover, and they were right. They really predicted this a week out, that there was going to be a lot of clouds. And I was in Austin, Texas, and holy crap, woke up that morning on April 8th, just absolutely blasted with cloud cover. There was, you know, there was their openings every now and then, and there was like 2 layers of clouds, while one layer below it move faster than the one above it. This would create kind of like a parallaxing effect for the eclipse, or we'll talk about that later. Again, the weather outcast was not favorable for most of the totality region. They were saying something about 90% was going to have some issues. Now, for our impressions of the solar eclipse, let's just start off by saying that this was a not so perfect experience for us. Again, if we're going to roll our footage here of the solar eclipse, And right here you can see, just as the moon covers the very last bit of it, we get the effect called the Bailey's beads, where it kind of sparkles around the edges of the moon craters. So it's a really cool effect. And then of course, the clouds did provide an effect on its own when it's time to look at the corona part of it when we finally have full totality. So in this video you can kind of see here where the clouds just make this weird looking clipping mask effect. That's probably all we're gonna talk about for the solar eclipse. I mean, you've seen our footage, you've seen other people's footage as well that are a lot better than ours. So, you know, we do apologize for not having the best footage on that. Of course, you know, it can't be helped. Now, this brings the next topic up, which is now the not so great news, which does connect with a solar eclipse. This furthered my issue with that whole week. I did not have a very good week. I was involved in the tornadoes in Slidell, Louisiana. I woke up in the hotel and I looked out the window and I knew there was trouble ahead. I barely got out to my car as the parking lot was flooded. I had to punch through 2 puddles of water to get on the interstate to get back to Florida. I barely made it on the interchange to get onto Interstate 10. And because that water was up to the fenders. And if I had not have made it through that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now making this video. But even with that, even more bad news came out of this, because United Launch Alliance decided to end their era the very next day, giving only people 16 hours to get back to their stations. So, of course, you're probably wondering what the heck, you were supposed to cover the Delta IV Heavy launch, you know, for episode 5, and I've told everybody on Twitter, I said, hey, you know, we're gonna have this Delta IV Heavy footage or broadcast for you guys. We couldn't do it, but don't take my word for it. The Delta IV Heavy was set logistically at an inopportune time. We did some research and found out that they could have actually launched on the 10th of April, giving more people time to get back. Now again, this isn't about me. This isn't about my show, because there were actually United Launch employees who did not make it back in time for the launch, where they were part of these operations. You can't expect these employees to have done a 16-hour drive from Texas or wherever they're at to see the solar eclipse. I mean, this whole thing was an absolute disaster, especially for some of the employees that actually work at the National Reconnaissance Office. I do, through school, I do know a few people, and they've said one of their friends didn't make it back to their post in time because of just how haphazardly this was planned. The media coverage, there's a very high cost of having the launch right after the solar eclipse. It's costed media a lot more money. I don't know what else to say other than I do apologize to you out there that, you know, I couldn't cover this launch. This is one of those launches that was really deep set in my heart to see, because, and the reason why I'm telling you this is I just want you to confide in me about the situation, and some of you are probably feeling the same way. So again, I just want to make it very clear that United Launch Alliance did have some options here, since it does involve a lot of the people invested in it. Covering the solar eclipse by other members of the media, it was actually a higher priority. So again, I just want to make it very clear, nothing revolves around me. I do understand that this goes way above me. People who are actually involved in the launch had issues, and yeah, it's really poor planning on United Launch Alliance. It's one of those, I can't forgive United Launch Alliance for this, but I'm not going to be forever mad at them. I'm not going to be mad at Tory Bruno. I'm pretty sure he had nothing to do with the decision. I think it's just somebody just kind of letting an oversight happen, and we're all human. We do make mistakes, so eventually I'll forgive United Launch Alliance on this mishandling of an end of an era. Yeah, so that's gonna do it for the show. We're not gonna have comments from last show because it's been a long ass time. Also, it's gonna be a while for the next show. I has just recently started a full-time job, so the show cadence is gonna cut in half here. So there'll be a space pod coming out next when the Starliner carries its first crew to the ISS. So with that said, I will see you guys next time.